and welcome to the Giraffe Social Media Podcast. It's what social media managers are talking about. I'm your host, Kaitlin McKenzie, and today I'm direct messaging Tom Jepson, a technical director at our partner agency, Footprint Digital. Today, we're going to be talking about search trends, why this is actually a really exciting time to be working in digital marketing, and Tom shares with us his advice on how to survive in the busier than ever digital age. Hi, Tom. How are you doing?
Not too bad, thanks. How are you? You okay?
Yeah, I'm really good, thank you. Thanks for asking. So to get us started today, it would be great if you could tell us a little bit about Footprint Digital and what your role is in the company.
Yeah, sure. So Footprint are essentially a search and conversion agency. We're based in Colchester, and in a nutshell, we help businesses make more money online. So where we come in is to support businesses with acquisition and conversion. So this is helping drive traffic to websites, but also making sure that people convert that traffic when it kind of comes to it. But I think as an agency, our core specialism is really to demystify digital. It's such a kind of confusing thing for businesses to decide what's right for them and to find the right path. I think that's where we kind of come in and kind of, what makes us quite different and why education and training is kind of a key thing to us. So
awesome.
I'm one of the technical directors at Footprint, and I work on the education and partnership side of things. So in a nutshell, I help train the team and educate the clients and things like that in terms of all things digital marketing, but also I work with building relationships and partnerships with other agencies that are equally passionate about the bits and areas of digital that we don't do, like yourselves.
Yeah, for anyone listening, it's probably worth mentioning that Footprint are actually a partner of ours, and we've worked with you guys for a good while now, and it's a very happy partnership, I'm pleased to say. So great. So tell me about what brought you to where you are now. Like, why do you love working in digital?
Well, for me, I think it's the people, it's the industry is in itself. It's kind of forever changing. Digital is just, it's never, no 2 days are the same. It's just the nature of what we do. It's continuously learning. It's kind of reinventing itself, and innovations required. And I've always loved that. I've always wanted to know how to kind of take things apart and kind of put them back together, how things work.
Sure.
And that's certainly what intrigued me from an SEO point of view, because my background is in technical SEO, so trying to figure out Google algorithms and how do they work, and kind of trying to figure out what's going on behind the curtain. Wizard of Oz kind of concept has been really intriguing to me. And then obviously with clients and things like that, businesses alike, people really, no two are the same. So I think it's really amazing when you kind of get a client and find out and have to figure out, well, what's the right thing for you? What are you actually trying to achieve? And how can we help you accomplish that? And that kind of variety, I think, it keeps anybody that's in digital, that's what keeps them in digital, I think, personally.
Absolutely. And it's always evolving as well, right?
Oh, yeah, 100%. What we talk about today, I was in the process of writing some training for a PR agency in London today, and I know what I'm writing today is going to change slightly by the time the ink's dried.
Wow.
So that's what makes it so interesting, I think.
Absolutely. And so, are you working from home at the minute? Are you back in the office?
Yeah, so I'm still working from home. The team is starting to go back to the office, which is good. I think it's been a bit of a challenge being away from each other. I think we've always missed each other, but equally, it's also been quite liberating, and I think all of us have had to change it in some way, shape, or form as a result of what's going on. But that's been a really healthy thing, I think. As we said, this is an evolving thing, so we need to change and evolve. And I think this situation's just kind of helped facilitate that. And what's great is some of the achievements that we've managed to do and work that we've managed to do for clients over this time. It's made a really big difference. But also it's been an opportunity to kind of reevaluate what we do, how we do it, and evolve it and improve as we go. So it's interesting times, that's for sure.
Interesting. That's a very good way of putting it. It's funny. One of our managing directors, Phil, who I know you know very well,
Yeah, I do. Yeah.
he was saying in a recent sort of catch up we were having while because we're all still working remotely, he was saying when Giraffe was getting started, it was all very, I want us to be as remote as possible. I want us to be able to work from wherever, like flexibility is key. And then as soon as we all had to work remotely, he's like, I want us to be in the office. I'm like really
Yeah.
miss the team collaboration and just the personal element. Cause I know at Giraffe, they put a lot of effort into like selection and like making sure they've got like people that they really like and really enjoy working with. So I guess, yeah, there's pros and cons for sure to both.
Yeah, you guys like predicted the future and kind of went remote way before anybody else. But I do agree. I think as great as some of the luxuries that it brings, it does allow you to be a bit more focused at times. But I think, I think our business, particularly in the culture element of things, is such an important thing. It's always about the people. And us certainly coming back together and being back in the office together is, it's been such a great thing that we've realised how much we've missed it. I think so. It's actually, we've been more disconnected, but it's brought us even more connected in some respects, or closer together.
Well, awesome. So obviously, as we're kind of touching on, it's been an interesting time for, well, the world really, but our industry, like you say, the digital industry is really changing, and it's been quite a busy time, I know, for us, and I think perhaps for you guys as well. So I'm just wondering what you can tell us about what your team's noticed about search trends, or the shift that we're sort of experiencing.
Yeah, so we did a little bit of research a few weeks back. Obviously, I think for every single business, there's no question that things have changed. Customer needs have changed, the way that what you do, when you do, how you do it, and how you communicate has changed for every business. So us, just like we've done for our clients, we've looked at ways in which, okay, how have behaviors changed towards interest in what we do, or in relation to the wider digital. So what we started to do is, as a search agency, we naturally turned to Google for the answers, and we started to investigate and look into, what are the search trends for people that are looking for, digital marketing agencies or web agencies, SEO agencies, PPC, social, etc. And we started to look at how that has changed since COVID. And it's really interesting because what we found pretty much across the board is that actually search interest, so i.e. people going into google.co.uk and typing in web development agency or social agency or whatever it might be, it's actually a 10-year peak. It's higher than it's ever been.
Wow.
And in some instances, in some industries, SEO in particular is a good example, you're seeing it, multiples of what it's been over the last few years.
Gosh.
So I think that reinforces that kind of belief that we've all had as to digital is as important now more than ever, no question. And it just shows just how much. I mean, digital has always been growing, but it's really kind of kicked up a gear. And I think particularly in the last few months, whereby, restrictions have been kind of eased. So July, May, August, we started to see some real upturns. And, we didn't really see much drop in, over March and April when things really kicked off.
Oh, wow.
And a secondary part of the research, one of the things that we discovered that we found quite interesting was around just how much of an impact kind of Brexit, or what we believe Brexit was to have had on people searching, or organisations searching for digital agencies. So what we saw is pretty much across the board again, we started to see a decline around the end Q4 2017.
Okay.
Around the time, obviously, that Brexit had been mentioned, and we started to see employment figures drop and things like that. So as soon as we started to see an effect on those kind of things, we started to see a downturn in interests of businesses or people searching for digital services. And I think that is a result of uncertainty. So what happens when there's uncertainty, particularly on a political basis, then businesses are less likely to make decisions.
Sure.
So we started to see a decline occur from 2017 right up until about December 2019. And as you probably remember, That's when the Brexit announcements had been made. Let's not talk about the specifics of what decisions were made. Let's put that to one side. But at least there was some kind of certainty or a decision, and that's when we started
Sure.
to see, big jumps in search interest again. And it ended the year with, we work with lots of different digital agencies, and I remember then at those times people were saying, normally in December it's quite quiet, and January as well, but it was kind of busier than ever.
Wow.
And then COVID comes along, and then we see the decline. But then a couple of months later, we're seeing this, and we're seeing it come back and bounce back stronger than ever. So it's really encouraging.
Absolutely.
For as an industry, obviously, it does reinforce what we'd think. But if there's anything that is sure, is digital is as important now than it has ever been. That's for sure.
Yeah, that is super interesting. Thank you so much for sharing that with us. And do you think the sort of 10-year high that we're experiencing, do you think that's a direct result of people having to take what were face-to-face offerings and, physical shop fronts and reach customers like elsewhere? Do you think this is like the answer to that? People like turning to businesses like yours and ours
Yeah,
to help
I
them
think,
transition?
I mean, we've seen businesses that have kind of refused to kind of really make the digital jump, forced to kind of move into it. So I think, now has been the kick that has gone for many there's still many businesses out there that weren't kind of ready to make that step, perhaps particularly sometimes the older ones that are a bit more ingrained with more traditional forms of marketing. I mean, I've been trying to fly the flag for digital and search and things like that but back in 2005, saying, look, this has to be the future.
Yeah.
But still today there's organizations that aren't ready or just haven't made the change because maybe they're it's change, and change is always scary. But I think the situation with COVID is no question forced people to rethink and have to move online. Don't have a choice.
Yeah, absolutely. And we discussed this a little bit before about, I think it's quite reassuring in a way. I mean, for example, like say a social media manager like myself, it's quite nice to see this. I mean, obviously the triggering circumstances aside and everything that's wrapped up with that, but it's kind of encouraging to see that we are like, it's just reinforcing the fact that we are sort of, in the future, and like what we do is really important, and the impact that we can have on businesses is huge at this stage. Do you agree?
100%. I've always believed it. That's why I'm so passionate about this this industry. The digital is here to stay, and I do think the skills that we provide is so important, and it will only become more and more important. I think what we find when we work with a lot of digital marketing managers and in-house people, for instance, we find we refer to it as a head chef syndrome, whereby if you had a chef, head chef, would you expect that person to wait the tables? Would you expect them to pour the drinks? Would you expect them to cook all the food, make the menus, do all the marketing? No, you wouldn't. Okay, but we expect that, or businesses expect that from somebody like a marketing manager.
For sure.
And that role is so complex. I mean, it requires somebody to be, analytical, business-minded, technical, creative, and requires a whole plethora of different skill sets that you couldn't really expect one human being to own all those skills. And I always say, if you know somebody like that, let me know, because I want to hire them. Because the reality is all these things are very much specialisms. And take social, for instance, Twitter versus Facebook versus LinkedIn versus all these other different variants. They've got their specialist things. So I think, businesses are going to require people to come in with these specialist skills and come together and work together to actually help them achieve. And I think, we see digital marketing managers in-house as the people that know the brand, the product, the audience better than anybody else, and their goals and objectives. And what they've got to do is work with specialists to kind of direct them into, what they want to do and how they can kind of achieve it through those platforms. So I definitely think there's, it's a great time for people working in this industry, in this space.
Yeah, I mean, you said a lot of things there that just absolutely, I mean, I know they chime with a lot of things that we talk about as social media managers. And I know for anyone, any social professionals listening, that expectation to wear absolutely every single hat in the digital marketing wardrobe is
It's a big
huge.
wardrobe.
Huge, absolutely. Like you're a graphic designer, like you say, you're an analyst, you're a copywriter, and I mean, so much more. Um, so yeah, I think the shift, like for businesses going towards more investment and working with specialists in some of those different areas that they maybe don't want to bring in house, I mean, it's definitely going to be great news for social media managers in house and out house.
Yep, 100%. And I think there is a caveat to, say, the research that we've seen
Mm.
in terms of this surge, what we've called a new digital wave, is what the way that we phrased it
Oh, catchy.
in the research. And that is to say that a lot of these people that are now searching and coming online, this is new to them. And I think as agencies, as professionals in these sectors, we need to recognise that and kind of understand that education needs to be a core part.
Absolutely.
A lot of these people might not be able to afford an agency as well. Agency obviously pricing structures change, and if people's just starting online, then they might not be the right fit. So setting expectations and kind of using education as a means to help kind of bring those clients up to speed as to what's required are going to be critical. And I think even if a new business isn't online, as in terms of our own marketing, it's if we can demonstrate our expertise, our skills in particular areas now, and help
Mm.
somebody just starting online, then that we might not be the right fit for them today, but it sets a seed for the future and
Yeah,
something that will pay off. And it's the right thing to do as well.
absolutely. Yeah.
Helping people.
Yes, very, very true. And in terms of the growth that we're seeing and the 10-year high, I'm just wondering if you can offer any predictions for what might come after. I mean, random, but I work with a lot of property industry clients in my role, and I know that they're experiencing this huge boom, but they are expecting like a decline in sort of in keeping with like the rise in unemployment, so to speak. And do you think we'll see that decline in like the digital industry?
Yeah, I think industry it's industry specific as well,
Yeah,
because
of course.
there's we're seeing growth in terms of interests in search. Now, if you look in certain industries, I can guarantee you it's not those people that are searching for things, right?
Yeah.
So it's always going to be industry specific. I think we'll see a kind of gradual, the rate in which it will grow may reduce,
Hmm.
but that won't stop the demand. And I think even a lot of these other industries that are much more greater affected by what's going on at the moment, you know, they will then come back online and come back and have requirements. So there'll
Hmm.
kind of be a delayed thing as well. So is it going to decline? Overall, I don't think so. I think it might slow down and pick up in different industries and different areas, but the future is digital and it will, I think that will only continue to grow. And I think the more people come online, then the more competition there is.
Hmm.
Therefore, the better you need to be at your game. You need to be more cutting edge. You need to outdo the competition and position yourself in front of them. So it will require more better skills and more insights for agencies and professionals in this area. That's my belief anyway.
Well, I think that's very positive belief for the likes of you and I. It's exciting.
Great.
Yeah, definitely. And so, speaking of these businesses that maybe are coming online for the first time, what's like the first bit of advice you would give someone who wants to take their business online?
Well, we have a saying here that is very simple when it comes to how to succeed in digital, and it
Hmm.
is quite simply measure it, test it. So the idea here is the beauty of digital is that whereas more traditional forms of advertising, you'd kind of spray and pray, if you like, you'd do something, you wouldn't be able to know exactly the effects of that and how much
Sure.
directly had a return.
Like a billboard, say.
Yeah, a billboard, a television advert or radio
Sure.
advert or something like that. Whereas with digital, this is where data comes in, and that's
Hmm.
the beauty of digital. It gives you insight as to better understanding, right, we did this activity, we made this investment, and this was the outcome and results. So predicting return on investment and understanding the performance is absolutely key. So that's the core concept that we kind of advocate. Obviously, if you're coming online, it starts with establishing what are your particular goals and objectives as well. So
Sure.
they're ultimately going to be your long distance marker, your targets that you're going to build everything around. And they're going to be things that you can use to measure what, are you managing to achieve what you set out to do. And then from there, once you've got your goals and objectives, it's about, thinking about your offering and your position within the market, looking at the competition that's out there, and obviously building up as detailed an understanding as you can of your customer or your audience. So who are they? Where are they? What do they need? What are their fears and barriers and anxieties, and understanding the full customer journey and how those needs and fears and barriers might change as they go through that funnel, if you like. And obviously it's about develop a strategy around that, where you can target the right people at the right time with the right message. And from that, it comes back to the measure and test it, because that's the beauty of it. You can try anything and use the data to inform whether it's working or not, rather than kind of a stab in the dark and not really knowing whether it's having an impact or not. So I definitely recommend those as the places to start.
I think that's great advice, and like hugely perhaps like under adopted. I know we see it a lot of the time with social, like businesses on social. They come to us because they're like, oh, we don't know if it works for us, and we don't know if it's the right thing. And you sort of talk about what they've done before, and they've maybe thrown a bit of money at this or thrown a bit of money at that, and there's never been that sort of consideration. And I guess that's what that probably won't be through their own fault. It will just be they maybe don't have the time, or they don't have the expertise and the knowledge. And again, I guess that's where an agency can really, really help, because you can take that time that they don't have, you can offer that to them, and really put that learning and measure those like really key metrics, and help them achieve their goals.
I think ultimately we're all humans, and I think sometimes we'll go in and we'll look at what people are doing and look at their strategies when they first kind of approach us and say they need some support. And as humans, we gravitate to what we know or what we've heard might work. And like I said right at the very beginning here, businesses are like people, so there is no cookie cutter approach. What works for him is going to work exactly the same for me.
Absolutely.
So you'll often find somebody might have had loads of success in social campaigns or search or display or whatever it might be in another lifetime, and then they come into a role and they think, oh, that's going to work really well here. And I think that's naturally where we always gravitate to what we know. And I think as agencies, as professionals, it's our specialism is coming into it, looking into their world and giving them direction. And we always say it's like the elephants in the room. Let's take an objective look at what's being done and what's needing to be achieved, and try and find the right solution from that. Because let's face it doesn't matter who you are. We're all the worst people to comment on our own kind of businesses, because we're too close to them. So I'm the worst person to comment really on Footprint and things, because I'm too close to it. And I think that's the skill set that we have as digital marketeers, is we come in and we kind of help people see the things that are right in front of them, but they're too close to it to see it.
Great. Okay, well, if we maybe dial it back to a sort of more personal note, I'm actually really excited to talk about this, because you did a TEDx talk. Am I right in thinking?
Yes, I did. That was just over a year ago now. Terrifying experience. No, but it was really good. Yeah, I did. I was lucky enough to get selected in TEDx in Chelmsford and to deliver a talk there last year. Along with another colleague, and another one of our team actually delivered one this year, which was really exciting.
Wow.
Yeah.
Great. Well, for anyone listening, you can find the link to that TED Talk in the description. But the topic of it was learning to survive at warp speed. And that sort of means the digital age, right? Learning to cope with the constant noise and the messages. You said something in the TED Talk that I had to write down because I was like horrified, which is like the amount of like tweets and messages and everything was the same as a book of Game of Thrones. Is that right? Like the amount that we're exposed to in a day.
I did some basic research on my own kind of digital touch points
Mm-hmm.
throughout a 24-hour period, where I took in, right, let's have a look at all the emails, let's have a look at all the tweets and all the different things that I kind of digital interactions that were potentially there for me to engage with. And I basically took and extracted all the text for those different things, and found out that that was the equivalent to reading the Game of Thrones every single day.
Oh my goodness.
I joke about the reality that I'm not even a popular person. So really, popular people, I dread to think. And I think, that's the whole point of the talk, really, is around digital is a wonderful thing. And I am a self-confessed geek, and I love and I'm passionate about digital. But I think there is a serious amount of, we need to think about the best ways to use this technology and ways in which we can manage it better. Because otherwise there is a huge amount of volume of information to consume.
It's overwhelming.
It is 100%. And, I'm certainly one of those that in the past have found it so. And I think we need to think about, well, how do we best navigate in a world like this where there's so much information to consume? And that's where the concept of, in my talk, it was talking about using my learnings from businesses and helping businesses understand their objectives, what they're trying to achieve, and how to go about achieving that online. We can do it for ourselves as well. And for a business, like we said earlier, if you can get clarity around what you're trying to achieve and the actual goals and targets and things like that, then that can help you be focused on where you need to spend your time and attention. And the same goes from a personal perspective. If you're able to establish what is most important to you and what you're trying to achieve, then you can develop what I referred to as attention anchors that can help you kind of go, is this, okay, here's an email coming in about this article on XYZ. Is this around my core attention or areas of interest? If not, then filter it out. And that's what I think, we as society need to do when it comes to digital, is to kind of get clarity on, where do we focus our attention and what's really important to us, because there's no question, there's no end of distractions that are available online, and me and Reddit is a clear case of that. The infinity scroll of
wow,
never-ending content that you can consume.
And so would that sort of translate to, say, like being more mindful about who you follow? So what's coming into your timelines, like making sure it's all stuff that you do definitely want to see, like maybe filtering certain, brands or users or influencers or whatever it is. And the same for your inbox, I suppose. My inbox has never been below 1,000, I don't think, for my personal, because it's just mailing list after mailing list. So is it that kind of
Yeah, I
thing?
think so. It's specific to each individual, really. The key thing is for us to kind of find, we need to monitor ourselves. I think we can't rely on society or technology to kind of make the decisions for us. It's almost like being in a sweet shop, right? There's so many different things out there that we could kind of choose from. Now we need to kind of show restraint and kind of keep ourselves in check to ensure that we're kind of, looking after ourselves and focusing on the important things and not kind of getting carried away. So I think that was the whole concept of the talk, really, was really to raise awareness in there and give people some practical ideas on ways in which they can kind of keep themselves in check and keep them focused on the things that are ultimately most important to them.
I think that's really, really great advice, and I highly recommend the TED Talk to anyone listening, especially people who work in our industry, because you just made me think, if say yours or my personal notifications and such is a Game of Thrones book, what happens when you add in like all of the clients that you look after and manage, especially from a social point of view? It's a little bit.
There's a whole wave of information there. So yeah, it's challenging, but yeah, particularly in this industry, and with it changing, you've got to read about things. I mean, that's the thing that we love as well.
Yeah.
As digital marketers, that's what unites all of us, is the constant that all of us have to, we want to learn a bit more about this. And that's the danger, really, certainly for myself, in terms of, right, let me learn this and this and this. There's so much you could potentially explore that you can actually get lost in it all. So it's just about retaining that focus of, right, what am I trying to achieve? What do I actually want? And focusing on that.
Wonderful. Okay, well, in terms of like learning things and resources that are out there, I'm curious. Do you have a favorite podcast that you listen to apart from the Draft Social Media
Yeah, of
podcast?
course, of course. I'm
Obviously.
a subscriber to that one. Yeah, I think my favorite one. I don't know if you've heard of it in the Infinite Monkey Cage, with Brian
Oh
Cox.
no.
You
Hmm.
haven't seen it? It's a BBC one. It's a
Yeah.
science. So I'm a science geek and things like that. And it's fun. It's just a bit of switch off, but it also talks about science and things like that, and some really interesting conversations. So definitely recommend. If you haven't listened to the Infinite Monkey Cage, I would certainly recommend tuning
Have to.
into that just to switch off, and it's also really funny.
Oh, really? Oh, cool.
Yeah,
I'll have to check that out.
check it out.
And we love asking our guests what they're reading as well. What book have you got on the go?
So I'm about to start one actually. It's by an author called Matthew Syed, and it's called Rebel Ideas, or Rebel Idea.
Oh,
The
cool.
whole
So,
idea is around exploring the power of, I think they phrase it as cognitive diversity. So it's about all of our individual ability to think about the world differently, and how if we pool our ideas and collective intelligence, then we can kind of come together to solve really complex and interesting problems. And that was off the
wow.
back of another book called Black Box Thinking, which was also by Matthew Syed. I'd definitely recommend reading those. Definitely.
Great. Well, at first I was going to ask you, is that fiction or non-fiction? But I think you cleared that up.
Yeah.
Sounds really interesting. And am I also right in thinking that Footprint Digital is releasing a book?
Yes,
Never
yes,
miss an
you are.
opportunity
Yeah,
for a free plug.
free plug there. Yeah. So, as I mentioned, education's a really key part for us.
Yeah.
We run a digital marketing academy every year, and it's a 22-day digital marketing course that we've developed over 7 years. We've kind of refined this, and we're getting to the final step whereby we take this syllabus and we've basically turned it into a book called Shoot the Hippo.
Oh.
How to become a killer digital marketing manager. So the whole purpose of this is for those in-house digital marketing managers, those head chefs that we refer to, and it's a guide, a field book, if you like, from them on how to go right through the process of kind of right from the foundations of what are the objectives, what are we trying to achieve, what is the audience, how do we develop a strategy around that, how do we find the right channels for us, how do we craft messaging, how do we measure things, so and then how do we feed that back into one another. So we're in the process of putting that together, and hopefully in the next few weeks or months we're going to have that out and available. So if anybody would like to find out more about that, then go to footprintdigital.co.uk. We're actually have got first readers of the books as well, so anybody fancies getting their eyes on it before, and then that's
There you go. An
touch.
exclusive.
Very
Wonderful.
excited. Really excited.
No, really, honestly, it really sounds it. It sounds like it'd be a great thing for that sort of hypothetical person we were discussing, bringing their business online for the first time. It'd be a great sort of helping hand. Well, so our giraffe interviews would not be our giraffe interviews without the quick fire round, which I, of course, haven't prepared you for, and you're probably dreading. But I promise you, it's just a bit of fun and helps us to get to know you a little bit better. So,
fire away.
Are you ready? Okay, question number 1. Iced coffee or iced tea?
Iced tea.
Podcast or newspaper?
Podcast.
Heatwave or deep freeze?
Heatwave.
Twitter or Facebook?
Twitter.
Oh, Mark Zuckerberg will be gutted. Apple or Microsoft?
I'm going to go Microsoft, believe it or not, for Bill.
Banana bread or sourdough?
Sourdough. Definitely.
Good choice. Bank holiday Monday or bank holiday Friday?
Friday.
Casual Fridays or bring your pet to work day?
Both. Can I
Okay.
choose both?
Yeah, sure. Why not? And I stalked you a little bit on Twitter, so I know you're a budding guitarist. So electric guitar or acoustic?
Oh, acoustic. It has to be.
Did you worry that I was going to ask you to pull out your guitar then?
I've got it here ready. No.
Oh, wow.
No, seriously, no. No. It has to be acoustic for me. I've always had a passion for acoustic.
Nice. 100%. So would you rather be a famous guitarist or a famous YouTuber?
A guitarist, I think. Yeah.
And this is a slightly wacky question that I'm just going to ask you it. If you could only communicate by tweeting or by expressive dance, what would you choose?
I would 100% go expressive dance.
Oh, do you know what? No one's ever chosen anything else, and I love that.
Oh, really? That's brilliant. And then there should be some podcast that is just, or video vodcast that is just expressive dance, I think. Could you do that, actually? Here's a challenge. I'd like you to do your next vodcast in...
exclusively expressive dance.
I think so, yeah.
Like question and answer with the guest. Yeah, I think we can make that work. Watch this space. Well, thank you so much, Tom. This has been great to chat to you. Thank you so much for everything you shared with us. Yeah, it's been wonderful. Thank you so much.
No, my pleasure. And thank you ever so much for having me on the show. It's been really great.
Thank you so much to everyone who's listened today. It's been great to have you along. Don't forget to subscribe so you don't miss any of our future episodes. You can also connect with us on all major social channels and let us know your thoughts. What are your predictions for the future of social media and digital marketing? We would love to hear those. We've been Giraffe Social Media. You've been amazing. We will see you next time.